In this video, we're going to look at using array properties inside objects. And before I show you, I'm interested in seeing if you can do something by yourself. So have a look at this example here. Elif Shafak, she is an author. And I am interested in modeling her using an object. But it's going to have something to do with array properties. So what might that be? So have a try at that. And you're probably going to want to use REPL.it for that again. So now you've had a go at that, let's look at that together. And by the way, something which I'm using here is something called a multi-line comment. So it's just a way of, when I begin and end with that syntax, it's just a way of leading some annotation which doesn't actually kind of get executed as JavaScript, just some like text comments. Just to remind me what we're doing. So we want to model Elif Sharaf using an object. So some parts are quite easy and related to what we've done before. She's going to have a first name, Elif. She's going to have a last name, Shafak. Books. So she's got lots of books. And my first thought might be to do 10 minutes 38 seconds, and then I'll keep it short. And then maybe I'll just list the others. The 40 rules of love, and so on. But something doesn't feel right here. Remember, the clue is actually, this is books, it's plural, it's a group of things. It's not a single thing, it's a group of them. It's a group of, let's say, 3 books. We've got 3 here. Because it's a group, this should be an array. And maybe then I could do 10 minutes, 38 seconds. I could do the 40 rules of love and 3 daughters of Eve. And this is definitely much better. So this is now an object where I've got key value pairs. I've got 3 key value pairs. But this one's the interesting one because a value is an array of strings. And now we're using an array property of this object. But we can make this a bit better as well just because this is quite long. So let's just reformat that to make it readable. So we begin the array, then we have on the next line indented one further level, the first element, or 0th element really I should say. Then this is the first element, and this is the second element. And then I'm going to de-indent this to line up with the start of the key. And this is a slightly more readable way. And this means that if I add another book in later, then it's easy for me to have that scanning down the line, the end of the line to look for commas. So this is good, but actually in the prompt we were given some year information as well. So I might put that in brackets here. So this is, we would presume, the year of publication date, which again it's easy for us as humans to kind of infer and be like, yeah, this is probably publication date. But there's a way that we used to kind of chunk information before and make it descriptive. Do you remember what it was? If you do pause, have a go and try replacing these strings with that. It was objects. And we're actually using an object here, but we can use another object here. So this 10 minutes 38 seconds, maybe I'm going to use an object. I'm going to say this is a book which has a title, 10 minutes 38 seconds, and it has a publication date, and that is 2019. And I can do the same for these as well. So I can say that this is book, so I'm going to use an object and it's got a title of the 40 rules of love, publication date, I can use 2009. Because these are numbers, remember, JavaScript understands numbers already. We're using strings for text. And finally one more, title, 3 daughters of Eve, and publication date of 2016. There we go. And now this is much more interesting and a much better representation as well. I have my object representing the author, Elif Sharaf. She's got some books. This is an array. This is an array of objects. And those objects have a title and a publication date. You might optionally want to, again, indent this even further. That one is like, at that point, it's a little kind of stylistic, I think. There's sort of like, you know, when it's got 2 key value pairs, might not be absolutely necessary, but it's kind of optional. And again, that lets you kind of scan down for missing commas. So notice then the indenting as well, how important that is. Because if I were to de-indent all of this, I'm going to use command right square bracket or left square bracket because I'm on a Mac, control on Windows. If I de-indent, it's really hard for me to see that structure. And the indentation, if I get it back, it's much more easy for me to see how this data all stands together, where this string, the 14 rules of love, it sits inside this object, but not on the same level as edif. Because this is a top level property, but this is further inside, because it's inside the books, inside that array there's an object. Inside that object, there's one of them which has that key, and that's where we find that string. And I can see that hierarchy better, and it's represented by being tapped by these different levels. But if I de-indent, that information is lost. And although the information is lost, it's still valid, right? So remember, there's a difference between code that is valid and code that's readable. It's valid, but it's not as readable and helpful for us humans who have to work again with this code in future as this one was. So both are kind of processed in the same way, effectively by JavaScript, but this one is a preferred way to write it because it's clearer. So now to check your own learning on that, have a read of this task and have a go at it. Remember, pausing, having a go is really important because it's by applying our learning that we learn more. So now you've had a go at it, let's go through it together. I'm going to use a single object to represent house Stark. They've got a name, or maybe a family name, I think is quite a nice way to describe that. The family name is Stark, and their seat is Winterfell. They've got a motto, that's winter is coming. They have some notable members. And the clue being that it's members plural, this is going to be a list of them, it's going to be a group, it's going to be an array. I know I'm going to add more, so I'm going to space it out nicely. There's Arya, Bran, and Sansa, which I could just do strings. But I can also represent different things, like perhaps, for example, gender. So let's replace that. I'm going to have first name of Arya, and her gender is female. I'm going to have first name of Bran, and Bran's gender is male. And a first name of Sansa, and gender female. And then the kind of religions. In this case, we don't have much information about it, so I'm pretty happy to model these just through strings. Old gods of the forest and faith of the seven. And this is a possible object representation of house Stark. In terms of like mistakes, which I've seen approaching this sort of thing before, this is the example code where here, with this line, I'm just showing I've omitted the other properties because this is showing the relevant stuff for this error. So there's an uncorked syntax error, so we're not kind of following the rules correctly somehow. Unexpected token, let's have a look. The problem here is notables. We open an array. We've got an object. We haven't actually closed that array anywhere though. And also the indenting is like kind of deceiving us a bit there. The indenting makes it kind of look right, but the indenting is actually not quite right. And it obscures the fact that we've not closed that array properly. So to look at that over here, because I've started my array, I should be indenting one further level. Then these should line up. And that structure, the fact I'm indenting inside my array, that makes it more obvious that, oh, I haven't closed this, because there's a kind of massive chasm here, right? So that's another reason why that indenting is important. And then that will fix that particular error. So now you can embed your learning from this video by trying to model yourself using an object where at least one property has an array value. In this video, we looked at objects which have array properties. In the next video, we're going to look at how we can use that so that your chatbot can give reply options to the user.